Okay. So, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Wayne Bean.
Mm-hmm.
I live in Cages Mountain, city limits. Not really. And today is January the 31st, 2013.
So, what I'm gonna be asking you first is, how was Caldwell County like, back then, in your, whenever,
In your
When I was growing up,
Yes, when you were
Okay.
growing up.
you didn't worry too much about anything. As kids then, that was, you could go out and play with your neighbors and all day long. You didn't worry about them. Because the neighbors' mothers, looked after us. So, where today you don't want to turn your children out of your sight anymore. So you're afraid somebody's going to abduct them or do harm to them or something or other. So, but back then, though, it was pretty free. I could walk to my paternal grandparents. They lived about 1.5 miles from here, and we just get on the road and we'd walk down there. And we didn't worry about anybody picking us up or anything. And of course, there were no cars back then. That many on the roads. But it was a lot freer than it is now. So,
What are some dreams that, you had when you were little?
Getting 16. Getting my driver's license. Getting a car. I don't really remember anything that I dreamed about. I mean, you just think about, reaching 16, is one thing when you're young, but that's about it.
So, what kind of jobs did you have, or what was how the economy was back then in this area?
I didn't. Well, I was young then. I didn't know anything about the economy. I didn't even know there was an economy.
So really, just jobs. It was just
Oh, we had jobs or chores at home. I didn't worry about a job or anything at that time. Because we had pigs and cows and chickens. We had a mule. My dad had a mule, and we farmed. Raised our own foodstuffs. We butchered hogs in the fall of the year. So we had meat during the winter. I was probably about 13 when I got my first paying job. And there was a guy over here that people used to have their cars washed on Friday afternoon or Saturday, going to church on Sunday. And I had a job of washing cars on Friday afternoons and Sundays. And I was about 13, I guess, at the time. That was my first paying job. My grandfather, I spent a lot of time at his place. He had a big farm. And, working on his farm, doing things like that, And he would give me 25 cents for working all day. So. But that was a lot of money then,
So things were just pretty smooth back then, really.
Yeah.
Wow, man, I should have been born back then. What were maybe some kind of struggles then that you might have saw your family face or that you faced?
My dad worked in the furniture factories up in Lenore. And anyway, he tried to organize a union. And anyway, they fired him, anyway, he couldn't get a job anywhere because they knew he was a union organizer. And the furniture factories, they didn't want a union organizer working for them because they figured, well, maybe they might take their employees, and start a union. And so he had a hard time finding a job. And my mother, she had to go to public work then and to support us, and she went to work at the Bluebell. And she worked there for several years, and, kept us supported and everything. But during that time, Lake Roadhis, right down below here, and people would go to Lake Roadhis fishing. Well, you had to have minnows to fish for fish bait. So me and my two brothers, we would sing these little old creeks and catch minnows, and then we'd sell them to people that was going to the lake, to fishing. I think we sold them for 25 cents a dozen or something like that, And that's the way we supported ourselves, my brothers and I. And that's the way we paid our way through school. We bought all of our clothes and bought all of our school supplies. We'd get 3 pair of jeans every year, a new pair of shoes, and we'd get 3 shirts. Of course, our underwear and stuff like that, but we would make enough money during the summer where we could pay for all that, and it wasn't a burden on my mom and dad, having to come up with money for that, So, which I always thought that was pretty neat, that we were industrious enough, to do something like that, So, and it was a pretty good mark. And we did that all the way. Even when I was in high school, we were still doing that, and we paid our way through high school. I think the only thing my dad and mom ever bought me while I was in high school is my class ring. When I graduated, they bought that for me. We didn't have to spend our money out of our minnow account. So.
How were the high schools like back then? Like, what kind of were the high schools, different high schools around here, or were they all the same?
Well, I went to Hudson. That's where I graduated from. Yeah, there were more high schools than there are now. But they were smaller in size. But they're about like they are now. I mean, I would think so. Teaching the same subjects. Well, more technology now than when I went to school. I'd say they're still about the same.
Cool. What are maybe some favorite childhood memories during this time?
Favorite childhood memories? I always enjoyed working at my grandfather's farm. And when I was off from school or when I was out of school for the summer, that's where I headed. Because I loved to stay with him and help him on the farm. And I remember one time, it was Christmas time, and my dad said we were going Christmas Eve, we were going to my grandfather's for Christmas. And we got down there and we opened packages up and everything, and all my cousins and aunts and uncles, they were there that night. Then Dad said, there's one more present we have, and he rolled in a bicycle off of the back porch. And I thought, now Santa Claus don't come till tomorrow, but he got this bicycle here the day before. And so we got up the next morning, we didn't have any packages to open. And I thought, this ain't right. Santa Claus don't come till the next morning, Christmas morning. Then I realized there wasn't no Santa Claus. So we got up, no presents. And then after I got married and my wife and I, we had children, we made them wait until Christmas morning to open packages. And we still do that today. We don't let them open early. But the thing we got was the bicycles was for me and my two brothers. And at my mom and dad's house, we decided each brother could ride it 3 trips around the house. And boy, we learned how to count to 3 right quick. Because 3 was the limit. You could go around. But I had good memories with my brothers, and, my older brothers. It was just a typical lifestyle. We'd go to ball games, and stuff like that, with my dad on Saturdays or evenings, or something, or on Sundays. Yeah, I don't think there's anything exception. Then we went to church on Sundays, always on church on Sundays. Go to Bible school, when school was out. We'd always go to that every year.
Do you think that some struggles that people faced back then are the same ones that people face now to these days?
No, I don't think so. Back then, if you wanted furniture or a refrigerator or you needed something, you had the cash, and you went and paid for it, bought it. Or you may buy it on a time payment or something, or lay it away or something. Pay a little on it every week. Nowadays, you go in, you hand them a credit card, and you're in debt, and you're paying 25% interest on it, and everybody's in debt. Well, back then, they didn't. They paid cash for everything, And I don't think they struggled as hard back then as they do now, because a lot of people just living from paycheck to paycheck, So. And I think I learned a lot by growing up in that time, because if I didn't have the money to pay for it, I wouldn't buy it. So, and I still do that today. Of course, I don't have to worry about the money today like I did then, So I think it's a little harder today, trying to raise a family with all liabilities or responsibilities, that you have, so today than it was back then. And of course, things didn't cost as much then as it does now, And of course, you didn't make as much money back then either. So I guess it sort of balances out a little bit. So.
What middle school did you go to?
Do what?
What middle school did you go to?
There wasn't no middle school when I went. It was elementary and high school. And I went to elementary school at Baton. And then when I was in the 7th grade, they didn't have enough classrooms at Baton, so they would bus us to the old Whitnall school. They had built a new school at Whitnall, but they had abandoned their old one. And so they bused us, my 7th grade, to the old Whitnall school. And in my opinion, that was a wasted year, because I had to ride the bus here to go to school, get on another bus and go to Whitnall. Well, that was like 2 hours. Then we got there. It was recess time. Then we studied about an hour, and then it was lunchtime. And then we had, after lunch, we studied about another hour, and then we had to get on the bus and ride back to Baton so we could catch our buses to come home with, you know. So we didn't really spend about 2 or 3 hours a day in a classroom. We had to pack our own sack lunch. You know what a sack lunch?
Mm-hmm.
We had to pack it and take it with us every day. And so we didn't really. I thought it was just a wasted year, you know, because we didn't get to study too much when I was in the 7th grade. But then my 8th grade, I finished at Baton, and then I went to Hudson High School. And the building I went to is, you know where the hub is?
Mm-hmm.
That was the high school then. So I went there. It's 2.5 years. And then they built the new high school, which is the middle school now. And I was in the first graduate class that went a full year at the Hudson Middle School. Or it was high school then, but it's the middle school now. So graduated in 1957. And the Statler brothers wrote a song about our graduating class. You ever heard it?
Oh, no.
Class of 57.
Wait, actually, I think maybe. I think I heard. Actually, I think I do remember hearing a song like that.
Class of 57.
I'm gonna Google it.
Okay.
Is there any changes that you would wish back then in your lifetime? Anything
Changes?
that you want to change?
What kind of changes, I mean?
Just any. Just if you could change something.
No, I don't think I'd have changed anything. I'm pretty well satisfied with everything that I've done, you know. I don't think I'd change anything.
Thank you. Sierra wanted me to talk about with you Elbert coin.
The Elbert coin. My grandfather was born in 1892. And when he was about 4 years old, this guy gave him a half dime. It's a half dime. And anyway, my grandfather, his middle name was Elbert. So he said, if anybody's ever named Elbert in the family, I mean, who wants the Elbert name? Then pass that coin on to him. So my middle name is Elbert. So he gave me the coin, and I have it today. And it was, if I remember right, it's 1885 is date on the coin. So I've had it now for 20, let's see. My grandfather died in 1978, so I've had it, this 35 years I've had it, I guess. But I only have one granddaughter. But her name's not Elbert, so I don't know who I'm going to pass it on to. So.
Let's see. Want to ask some questions?
What are some advices you would give my classmates about school? Any advice?
Just learn all you can, everything you can. Study hard.
I wish our brains were like a sponge, you know, to make that a whole lot easier.
What was your career like? Your main thing you did?
My career?
Mm-hmm.
I was in the textile business. Shortly after I had an older brother and I had a younger brother. So I'm the middle brother, or was the middle brother. And I wanted to go on to college, but Mom and Dad didn't have the money. because my older brother was at Gardner Webb, and they just didn't have money, to send me. So after I graduated out, I got a job working at the Bluebell in Lenore, which is textiles. And from there, I tried to learn everything I could about the textile business. And I stayed there about 4 years, I guess. And I got a job opportunity to move to Gastonia. I moved down there and I learned a whole lot more. I learned how to make patterns, for pants and shirts and everything. And then an opportunity came open in Hickory to run they call it a cutting department, where they lay all this fabric out and they cut it, put patterns on and cut it. So we moved to Hickory, and then when I was in Hickory, the guys I worked for, they decided to open a plant up in Spruce Pine. So they moved me up there, and I ran the whole plant. And it was just too much for me at that age. And I moved back here. I started to work in a sweater factory over in Morganton. I worked there about 10 years. But I had thought I had enough knowledge that I wanted to start my own business. And in 1978, I started my own business. I was manufacturing and selling cheerleading uniforms. And I had a plant over in Hudson. I employed about 50 people. And I started a plant up in Winona, Minnesota, and employed about 50 people up there. And in 1987, our business, the schools were consolidating, so we were having to take our business from other suppliers of cheerleading uniforms. So this company in Dallas, Texas, they decided, well, we'll just buy you out. And they had enough money, and they bought me. And I worked for them for 2.5 years after that in 1990. And then I retired. I was 52 years old. And I haven't stopped working since, have I?
No, you haven't.
How was yours and your father's relationship?
My father and my relationship, it was good. It was good.
Like, did he tell you any interesting stories about his childhood?
No.
The Volkswagen story.
Huh?
The Volkswagen story.
The Volkswagen story.
I remember something that he was driving an old stick shift Volkswagen and he drove it into a haystack or something. No, it's been a long time since I've heard the story, so sorry about that. But
he wanted me to go down to his dad's and borrow something one day and drive his Volkswagen, and I couldn't find reverse on it. When I got there, I couldn't get it to back up, so I just drove out in the field and drove back home.
yeah.
Now, my dad was a character, though. You'd have to know my dad. But we had a good relationship. He wasn't too much on work, though, I'll tell you that. So he let somebody else do it.
How big was your family? Like, how many siblings did you have?
I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. I had one brother with Down syndrome, and he lived to be 66 years old.
Yeah. He died the year after my mom did.
Mm-hmm. So, the one brother, my older brother, he went on to college, graduated from ASU, and he taught school. He was at West Caldwell. He was the principal at West Caldwell. And then he moved into the main offices. He was associate superintendent of the Caldwell County Schools. And then he left that. Well, after he retired from that, then he became a county commissioner here in the county, and he's still involved in a lot of politics, state politics and stuff like that. So
And now he's on the board of trustees for the college.
yeah, he's on the board at CTI, board of directors. So.
Dang.
And then my younger brother, he graduated from ASU, and he taught school at Drexel. And then he had a disability several years ago, and so he had to retire from teaching. So. And then my sister, she was a teacher at Baden Elementary School all of her career. She retired there after 30 years. So. My mom worked at Valdez Hospital, a nurse, 29 years. My dad, I don't know. He ran a little old country store out here. But we all done pretty good.
May I ask how Mamaw died?
Do what?
May I ask how Mamaw passed away?
You're going to have to talk a little bit louder.
How Memo died.
In 2009.
She died on St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, 2009. My dad died on January the 16th. And that's the day that the U.S. invaded Desert Storm. The day he died.
I'm sorry.
When did you meet your wife?
When did I meet my wife? 1955. I think.
That's his question, by the way, not mine.
How was like the first meeting? Like how was it like?
She was dating a friend of mine. See, we were students at Hudson High School, and she was going to Collinsville High School, and she was dating this friend of mine, and so she asked my friend about getting a date for her cousin, and so anyway, my friend, he asked me if I would blind date with this girl, in Collinsville, which I did for several times, I guess. And then he quit dating my wife now. So I asked him, I said, well, if you quit dating her, you think it's all right if I could ask her for a date? So I called her up and asked her, and I did. We got a date. And that was, I think, in 1955.
And Nana has a bunch of old love letters upstairs.
Do what?
I read them all.
Is there like any places you would like to go, like a getaway?
Like back then, was it like maybe sometimes when you just felt like you needed a break or something, or a place to really think? Where did you seem to go?
You talking back when I was
Yeah, when you were young.
growing up? I'd go to my grandfather's farm. And then my maternal grandparents lived over in Burke County, and I'd get to go over there, and I would get to stay all week over there because my mother and dad, they were working and they wouldn't come but every Sunday. So I'd get to stay a week over there, when I went over to Burke County. So. But that was about all the places I went when I was growing up. So, I don't even remember going to Hudson when I was growing up. So. And I didn't know where Collinsville was when I was growing up, but I knew they had a good basketball team because they'd come down to Hudson and they'd beat up on them boys down there.
Like, in your opinion, what does being successful mean, in your opinion?
Hard work. hard work. You live with it 24 hours a day.
What like family cultures do you have? Like, what do you guys do? Like, is there any special days you guys?
Traditions. maybe.
Yeah. Any?
Yeah, we have a family tradition that once a month, everybody in my family that can, we get together and we sit down and have a meal. Once every month, somewhere.
Usually Christmas.
And tonight is our tonight. We get to-
Yeah.
Of course, one son, though, he's working out of town. He's in Dallas, Texas. He won't be here. So. But we've done that for several years, haven't we?
Yeah.
And then we always get together for birthdays and, of course, Christmas and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving. You know.
Food days.
What was like your favorite moment with your wife? Like, memory or?
Favorite moment?
You see her is all into this now. She's like, oh, what? I want to hear this.
What is my favorite moment? Well, you can stop it or pause it if you want to. If you need
Well,
to.
here, we'll just cut this part out. You can cut out the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
what?
wanted you to take a picture of us.
Okay.
Oh gosh, I hate faces. Okay.
Oh, come
I
on,
know.
Donovan. You're not that bad. Well, that's so intent. That was weird.
Okay. Back
Oh,
to
no,
the
that would
question.
be hard to describe one favorite moment. I mean, you have so many of them.
Okay, good. Just go ahead and just list them. Just. It's many,
Like,
it's
that's what
many.
I'm saying. Like, is there one time that you felt that Nana was just amazing? You just felt you loved her so much in that moment. Oh, such a hopeless romantic moment.
I don't know. You just had so many of them. It's hard to pinpoint one.
Can you tell us a few of
Like
them?
the children was born, you're even cooking a meal,
A good meal. When Nana's concerned.
She's a good cook. So,
Yeah.
And traveling, and then working, together because she helped me in the business, like so.
Sorry.
Like, what do you want? How do you want people to remember you?
He was just a good Christian fella. We go to church in Collinsville.
Like, your legacy. Like, how do I ask this? I'm not.
Which question? What's the legacy?
I don't.
Legacy is how, like, what you want to leave behind. So, like, what do you want to leave behind, and what do you want? Not as much as people to remember you by, but by good deeds you've done.
My history,
What? Yeah.
The history
What?
books.
Yeah. Like.
my history knowledge, my research. I've done a lot of research on history in Caldwell County.
So, I mean, this is kind of like a similar question I've already asked.
I go over there and get the long leaf,
Oh yeah.
show it to these boys.
Can I take it down?
Yeah.
Um,
You know what the Long Leaf Pine Award is?
No.
Awesome stuff.
Take a picture of that. That's awesome.
Just everybody don't get one of those.
Yeah, looks like
Did you read it?
No,
What it is
It's by the governor.
it's the highest award that a North Carolina citizen can receive.
in the whole North Carolina?
Yeah,
Wow.
him and his brother got it the same day, and it's the first time two brothers have won it.
So you guys made records.
Yeah,
So we're in the tell you some of the people that's in this Order of the Longleaf Pine. Dale Earnhardt, Andy Griffin,
Any
Angela Mayu, Richard Petty. So we're, there's some of the people that
it's for like
has this award.
So do you win it every year?
No,
Like,
you only
No.
win one time. So you
but it's
You're a
great
lifetime member
It's
of it.
great service to the community and for the betterment of North Carolina. And
Wow.
that's great. Wow.
It's the highest award that a citizen of North Carolina can receive.
That is like awesome. So, this is kind of like a question that it's kind of similar, but it's a little different. But, do you believe the struggles most high schoolers face these days were the same when you were in high school as a freshman?
Yeah, comparing the different technology you had today. I mean, when I was going, we had biology, chemistry, and we typed on an old Remington typewriter, which today you got computers, it's still the same, It's, I guess all the digital electronic stuff today, we didn't have back then. Is different today for children, but I think it helps them a whole lot, because if you want to know something, you just pick up your iPhone, and ask the question.
Yep, that's true.
You can get the answer.
You're like, yeah, that's true.
Why do we have schools anymore? If you want an answer, you just pick up your iPhone and ask it, and it'll tell you. So I'm saying, why do we have schools?
Like, do you think that the reason that we have more electronics and stuff in our generation now can be more harmful to us, or do you think it's more beneficial?
Well, I think it's more beneficial. Yeah, because even my age, I've got it in here. I've got the computer. I've got the cell phones. I've got remote TVs. We didn't even have remote TVs when I was growing up. We had a little black and white TV about 12, 13 inches long, and if you want to change the channel, you had to get up out of the chair and walk all the way across there and turn the dial. Now you sit there with a remote. It's better. It's better.
Yeah, it would be like in my family, we'll be sitting there on the couch. Where's the remote for like 20 minutes, and I'm just like, why not get up and just change the channel? But yeah.
For the last question, what is your favorite saying? Like, what is it? What, like?
What's my favorite saying?
Like a
yeah,
quote.
like
where,
a quote. Yeah.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Woo.
Hey, take a picture of me. Like, here. Let me show you.
Oh.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I've got it somewhere. I can find it.
It didn't take it. No, it didn't. I'm sure. You keep on pressing it until you see the flash. Just trust me.
Okay.
That right there.
Hmm?
Read it.
I'm not from Collinsville, but I got here as quick as I could.
May I take a picture of it?
That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Did you see all that
Yeah.
colorful stuff that I have in here? All
Yeah,
these books
Sierra showed me like all those books, and I was just
with
like,
photos and books and stuff.
Well, I just stop. Do you have any last questions?
There you go. Shut up. Is there some other things you would like to talk about? You know, like maybe let some of our fellow students know about.
Well, let's see. Miss Hageman is my cousin's daughter. Does that mean anything?
Yeah, she's our principal.
Mhm. And like I said, my brother's on the board of directors over there, so I'm proud of both of them for being involved there at the school, you know. And of course, I'm on the board of directors at the Caldwell Heritage Museum. And I'm also the president of the Collinsville Historical Society up in Collinsville. So. And we go to church up at Mulville Baptist Church in Collinsville. So we're pretty involved with the community up there. We're involved with the community here. We're involved with the community over in Lenore. You know, that's one thing that reason I got that, I guess, you know. So we try to stay pretty active with everything, so if at all possible. But then we also have a house up in Ashe County, and we go up there and spend 2 or 3 days, and then we're here 2 or 3 days. So, you know, that makes it a little change of pace, you know, between the two. But I'm glad of, you know, what I've been able to do and what I have done, and you know, look forward to doing a whole lot more, you know, if all possible, you know. So, and doing interviews with 2 boys sitting down here. So, but I do a lot of interviews with, you know, older people, senior citizens stuff. You know, I try to get their stories and, you know, about how to, you know, when they got electricity, you know. They were in World War II, you know, or they were, you know, during the Depression. You've heard of the Depression, you know, I guess, in the 30s, you know. How did they survive? How did they live, you know? How did they, you know, Christmas plays at church, going to schools. I do all kinds of questions with them, you know. And then we print that up in our historical society. We print books. Put those interviews in there, and I've interviewed a couple of people that's 90 years old, you know.
Wow.
Got their stories, you know, so because they went to one-room schools back then,
Oh, yeah.
and
Wow.
you know, all the kids same age was in the same classroom, you know. So I mean, it was quite different from, you know, what we're doing, you know, so what I did and what you're doing now, you know. But I love doing the interviews. I love to talk to these people. I love to meet these people. And then another thing that I've done for the last 8 years is we go out and find abandoned cemeteries and document them. And we do the readings on the stones, names, birth dates, death dates, whatever's on there. And then the technology part of it is we do a GPS location on it. And then we file those. We've got books on those that we've been doing. Well, like I said, for the last 8 years. I've been helping another guy with it. You know, we're both doing it. So But I've enjoyed doing that. I've met a lot of people. I've went to a lot of different remote locations, you know. Climbed a lot of hills, crossed a lot of creeks. Doing that, I enjoy doing that. It's a good thing, I think, for the Historical Society as well as for the county, you know, to have this information available, you know. If somebody's looking for their ancestors, where they're buried at, you know, or where they lived, you know. So, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I like it. Of course, we could only work 2 or 3 months a year after the deer hunters gets out of the woods and before the snakes and the chiggers and the ticks and the poison oak gets out in the spring. So we need to be out there now. I've got 7 or 8 places that people's told me about where there's an old abandoned cemetery now. I need to go find it, you know, and document it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I love history, I love historical stuff. I love taking photos of old buildings, barns, and, you know, because, you know, one day they're going to be gone. So.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Oh.
So, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. That was like awesome.
Now, can I tell you about my granddaughter? My first name's Wayne.
Okay.
And I tell the story. She was smart. Because when she was born, they called me and told me that they were at Fry Hospital. Baby was being born. So we jump in the car and we go down. So when we get there, her dad is carrying her down the hall. And we're coming in and she's a hollering, Wayne! Like she's crying. You know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, she already knows my name.
Oh, that's good.
Oh man, I cannot wait just to like play around with her with that. It's
Yeah.
gonna be funny.
I tell that on her. She gets a kick out of it as much as I do, I think.
I'm just gonna walk by her and be like, man.
Thank you.
So yeah, I want to get